Welcome back to Man Across New Horizons. I'm dear darling, as you see what's going on on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today. So I just had to check, so for a moment there I was like, did I even remember to turn on my mic? And I did. But yes, we're almost here. Have a Christmas holidays. You know, everyone's got their time off and everyone's relaxing, having a good time. Well, maybe not everyone, but you know, some people are, I should say. So I'm now relaxing, having a good time, chilling out, as per usual. Just, you know, relaxing. I don't know what else is there more to say. So, you know, I don't know. I wish I had another way to fill that in. But hello, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, 6:12 p.m. on Friday, December 20th, 2024. Yeah, it's only 5 days to Christmas. I am not going anywhere in particular for Christmas, but, you know, having just nice celebrations with family and family friends. And probably friends as well. Not really sure exactly the distribution of how things are going to go, but, you know, it's rather similar every year, to be honest. Relax, have a good time, eat good food, chat with people, essentially. Just, it's all about relaxing, I feel like, at the end of the year. You know, nothing happens at the end of, well, that's not true, but things don't really happen at the end of the year, so it's nice that everything can sort of slow down for a moment. But what should we talk? You know what I can talk about, you know, because, you know, I have all this time now, I suppose, because the D&D is not so much, I'm not doing D&D like twice a week anymore, and now I've got like my evenings are sort of freed up, things are less busy. I've been not only recording a little bit more, you know, I've actually got a tiny bit of a backlog, if anything. I know. I'm not going into Saturday not having recorded another Crab's Treasure episode, which is crazy, but I've gotten the time to draw a bit more, and the things I've been drawing recently basically been, I suppose ironically, D&D campaign related, mainly because like it gives you a solid basis to work off. There are some, like, of course I have other characters who I can draw, that sort of thing, but I'm trying to ease myself back into it again. And I had wanted to do D&D art for a little while, at least for this campaign. One of the biggest things I wanted to do was the fact that a lot of the art I use in the current campaign, I use a virtual tabletop called Foundry Virtual Tabletop, and I basically take images that I find online to represent NPCs and characters, etc, etc, etc. Same with like scenes and backgrounds, etc, etc, except for I'm not a background artist, so that is something I would need to work on. And in an ideal world, I would love to be able to create every single asset that goes into the D&D campaign. I am that type of person, you know. I want things to be perfected to the image I have of it in my mind. But that is not reasonable, and at some point you got to draw the line between impracticality and reasonability, where, you know, I could spend all this time doing all this beautiful artwork, and I'm sure my friends, if they have when they have the sessions, would be like, this is amazing, dear darling, this is gorgeous. Well, maybe not gorgeous, but this is really awesome and immersive. But at the same time, they would probably be like, I would love if we had a D&D session more than once every 3 months or something. So, you know, you gotta have a trade-off, and obviously there's a wealth of like amazing artists already existing on the internet who have drawn art already for their characters and very thankfully uploaded them, so that we can, you know, it's unsurprising to say that in this private campaign, I will just look for something which seems particularly relevant and close to what I had in mind for the character, and just use that instead. I'm sure I'm not alone in doing this, and at least coming from my perspective, artist who has uploaded their art online, you're free to use my art for whatever, like, you know, what is it, private use cases or things like that, because it's like behind closed doors, like who knows, who cares, like, does it matter? To some people it does, in which case you should respect them, you know, respect their choices. If they say don't use my art like literally anywhere, even for private work, fair enough. But, you know, it's just more like a balance of feasibility. Could I also, you know, the alternative is basically have default NPC like things from images as provided, like in Foundry itself. That's true, I could do that, but then also I have quite a few friends who don't have a mind's eye, or have a weaker mind's eye, and I feel like that's a pretty like rude to them, be like, oh, you know, you can't think about what I'm describing, just imagine it, you know. They just had to sort of sit there staring at the screen of like a symbol of like a blank white NPC icon character, and just be like, I don't know how I'm meant to imagine this as like you know, the deity or something you're describing. So, you know, trade-offs and that sort of thing. Ideal world, I get to create everything by hand. I'm not an entire team of like artists, so that is not even remotely feasible. An ideal world is there is no art whatsoever for this campaign. So we're nice squarely in the middle where there is a campaign, art campaign, voice campaign, and you know, it's from a good artist. I should do like a sort of like compilation of all like the credit of the images I've used here and there. But anyway, the long and short of it is, one thing I wanted to do is that like once a campaign had been ongoing for a while and we figured out basically which characters, like their characters, I go into the campaign being like, this is probably going to be a main character. Like I'm going to establish up their dynamic of the story, which makes sense for them to be like a central communication point. But there are other characters, you know, it's as much my story as is my players. Sometimes the characters I've gone in with being like, I feel like this might be a main character, they've completely ignored or they have no interest in speaking to whatsoever. Fair enough. No loss there. That's just how it is. They are defining their story as much as I'm giving them the foundation for it. And there's some characters as well who I'm just like, this is some random side character, let's not even think about it all too much. And then it's been like, oh, my players have adored them and have latched onto them and they have become a main character. And I'll say the name Stooge for anyone in the campaign who knows about it. So now that the campaign's been going on for a while, I wanted to draw some art for not only characters who are important characters, but also characters I like, you know, more. Because some of these characters were born out of necessity for the plot, and some of these characters were, excuse me, either like existing character concepts I had, or mechanical builds I wanted to try, or things which I just really were eventually enamored by them. I wanted to draw art for them, so like they have a more personal element to them, and so they're represented in a way which I imagine them as, you know. So of course I have a DMPC who's in one of the parties, and I've drawn her and her automaton robot steel defender companion. I haven't coloured it in or shaded it, mind you, so I do need to do that at some point. And it's aligning closer to what my image was of her, because the image I can't remember the artist who I used, but the image that I had been using for her, I actually forgot to add it onto this, but seemed more cheeky than I think that she actually was. Like the image I used was, maybe I can find the artist, let's see. I bet if I search cohort artifice, it's probably like one of the first results or something. Oh, it's literally right there. Fleek, Kobold Artificer. Who is the artist? Tamlin123. So, thank you, Tamlin123. You've been the face of my Kobold Artificer DMPC for ages. But, like, the art used in that always seemed much more sort of, like, cheeky compared to the character who I play, who is much more, she's kind of more like a much more calm, motherly character is probably how I describe her. Sort of motherly, you know. She's motherly in some ways, I mean, she's very bad at being a mother, I suppose, in other ways, I would say. So, she's also much older than the character depicted in that image, and that's why I was saying I forgot, like, I was meant to add wrinkles to this character to show her age, but I forgot. So it's nice to be able to represent her in a way which is like closer to my envisioning, and it goes for a lot of the NPCs, to be honest. Like some of them are like I just sort of went, this is close enough, and to be fair, some of the much more minor characters are like I had no conception or very little conception of what this character looked like originally. I just scrolled until I found an image where I was like, yes, that will work. But the other one I'm drawing is this sort of, I've spoken about them before, is like this other group, like this other adventuring party who are in both campaigns, you know, relevant, very relevant in one campaign, and could be relevant in the other campaign. I'm not going to give away too many spoilers, but that's that. Who are basically built up of 4 different character like builds I would want to have tried if I was like a player in a different campaign. This is why if you have a lot of player character ideas, you should just be a DM. You can throw them all together. And I wanted them to feel like a very, I always knew they hopefully would have been an important cast, because, you know, the main motivation behind them is that it's to make the world also feel more alive, because they feel like they're their own active adventuring party, that they're on their own quest, they're doing their own thing, they have their own like little motifs, almost as if like I was DMing for a 3rd campaign or something, and this is those players' characters. That's what it should feel like. And I always wanted to give them like a visual which is closer to what I had internally imagined. But it was an interesting thing because all 4 of these characters were more born out of the mechanics behind them and the lore behind them necessarily than the actual visual they had. Like I can tell you right now, one's a lizard folk, one's a tabaxi, one's what are they called? Aarakocra, and one is a loxodon. And you might notice, are they all anthropomorphic animals? They weren't originally all anthropomorphic animals. I know I have an association with them, but originally only one of them was the lizard folk, and then the other 3, I can't remember. Like, I think the tabaxi was an elf. I think the loxodon was a dwarf, and I can't remember what the Aarakocra was. Maybe Aarakocra was always an Aarakocra? Or maybe they were someone else, I can't remember. But they were very different. But then I changed them around visually because these were some of the NPC images I had for the original meeting place, and I basically swapped them because I was like, I think this is coming from a more meta perspective, is that the important characters I tend to give, like, I try to have an even distribution of all the like fantastical races, even if it doesn't make sense demographic wise, because I'm like, it's easier to remember. Like, it's very difficult to remember the difference from just like a profile headshot of like human, elf, dwarf, halfling, gnome. They can look all rather similar and things blur together, but it's very easy to remember, oh, this one, that's the eagle, like secretary bird looking one, like that's very like notable. It's like, oh, that's the elephant. That's why I like these NPC characters, and if you play my campaigns, I tend to have the important characters, there's a disproportionately high amount of unique or rarer races, fantasy races in them, because that makes them more memorable in my mind. It's easier to associate with them. Not to say that there aren't humans, there are important humans, elves and dwarves in the campaign. Some of them have been skipped over, I will say, but so be it. And then when I do like a faceless NPC, like an NPC for the purposes of like they want to talk to someone or someone I didn't have prepared, I will just give them like a standard race, like every single fantasy race from the player's handbook, basically every time. But it was very interesting because I didn't super solidified have them. So they were kind of born from the concept of that idea of a lore, as well as the placeholder art that I chose to use for them. So it was very interesting that basically what I was doing is I was kind of redesigning and designing them for the first time. Because obviously I was using that character art as a basis, because I was like, I need to draw upon it. This is like iconic to what my players will think about when they imagine this character. It needs to have an obvious through line from that character to this. So like the main thing I'll probably be doing will be preserving colours for the characters, unless it's very, very different. Like there's one character I can think of in one of the campaigns who is a completely different colour in my mind. They're tabaxi as well, surprise. But even that might have shifted my mind, because maybe I'll use the new colours more instead. But it was very interesting redesigning them, because now I could build them from the ground up with the motifs that are relevant to them in their design. Like one of them has this sort of like arm motif kind of going on. It's not quite right, but these sort of like astral arms, because he's a monk of the astral path, astral way, I forget what it's called. And being able to incorporate that into the design is really cool. And then, you know, the tabaxi, she's a warlock, and she's kind of like how I describe to be like a Justica or something. So I've now put in like these elements of like this like split down the middle, which was not reflected in her like original art. And then the Aarakocra, they were meant to be much more like, I don't know how to put it. They're meant to be like highly flirty, I would say, but they look very noble in the actual NPC art they given. So I was like, okay, I can give you like a new outfit to sort of give off that new vibe of like sort of flirty playfulness, and then like incorporate some things to really sell the idea of like a like a motif of like rumours is perhaps how I describe it. I was saying the Loxodon looks basically the same, because the Loxodon I saw it and I was like, that is genuinely perfect. Right? It's like exactly what I had in mind for his character. We've only just like, I changed it up a little bit to incorporate some different motifs related to the deity they worship, rather than the ones in the NPC art. So it's like, you know, it's really cool being able to redesign. It's like I've got the basis of what the character looks like, but now I can do the fun part of like inventing an outfit, inventing like motifs to interweave together to what I'm creating, to actually make it the cohesive character, which not only has a visual basis to go off of, but now thematically aligns with the story that's in mind. I'm also looking at the art now, and I've realised that this needs to change a little bit, because that doesn't make sense, but I've also got them like on a mini lineup so I can see them how tall they are compared to each other, which might surprise some of my players, because I was talking about it with one of my players and she was like, I didn't know that character was so tall and that character was so short, and I was like, yeah, that's just how I pictured it in my mind. But I think that's the most fun thing, is now that I can interweave the custom art with the actual story these characters have, because these main characters do have more of a story behind them. They're not just, oh, you know, this is their personality trope, this is their accent, if I need to speak with them. They all have full-on, not maybe fleshed out to a backstory of like some of my other player characters, but maybe more than some other player characters. They have like an actual backstory and thematics, and like the way they use their powers, which are weaved together, which can now be incorporated with the way they present themselves. And I'm just like, that's so rewarding, I think, to be able to do that. So yeah, I don't know what else I was going to particularly say about that. But that's why I'm just like, it's sort of like, it's like redesigning, except for I didn't create the original design in the first place, nor do they really have a solidified original design. It was more just like a placeholder, to be like, this is what is representing them. And now to be able to take that, and you have, now I need to basically be like, okay, I'm going to take the image which has been used to represent them for like a good almost a year now, and then take the image in my mind's eye, and now I need to find like a healthy intermingling in between of the two, and that needs to be the final product, because it needs to be a success. I suppose I would define it as a character redesign, quote quote, success, if one, it still sticks to the original idea I had in mind, two, it now better represents the character and other motifs and the lore and the story behind them, and three, still remains recognizable to the players, so they can instantly look at that character and be like, yes, I know who that is. I'm sure that third one is going to be difficult, because there is like, not a muscle memory, but like an eye muscle memory. There's like a visual memory where it's just like, you remember things in exact configuration, in exact pattern, right? Especially because for these players, they've been seeing this over and over and over and over and over again since February. Like, even if I drew the character exactly the same, even just in a different pose, or obviously I have a different art style to the people who drew them initially, it's going to mess with that visual memory like a lot. So there's no getting around that. I can't unmake that association there. I would have to completely learn a new art style and be able to incorporate it seamlessly. I'm not that good. I can only really draw on my own art style for now. Draw comfortably in my own art style, but there's still a lot which I think can carry over. You know, as long as the colours match, as long as the general sort of shapes match. They don't have to match exactly, but I need to be considerate, I suppose, when I'm changing them. And as long as I feel like the vibe that they go with is the same, I think that'll be good. So yeah, it's super exciting. It's basically character redesigns ? I'm not sure that's what I'll title this episode. But anyway, I'm having a lot of fun doing it. Or maybe I'm just having fun drawing, who really knows. Now I've got to clear out my piano so I can actually have fun playing piano as well. But anyway, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling, and likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.